Thank you very much, dear Dean Kinguo. I was asked by the organizers to have the very tough and difficult task to wake up all the audience after this very rich lunch. I will do all my best with fireworks and ideas and so on. So, first of all, thank you for this great opportunity. I'm very happy we have a great cooperation with the School of International Studies of PKU, and I'm very glad to be here. When I was younger, I was fascinated by the famous book on the black swans. But in the book, there was written that there was one black swan each decade or each century. Now we are living in a period in which each semester we live with black swans, and maybe in the future we will be each month, each week, each day. So my first point will be about how rapidly, how fast the international relations system is changing, and the big challenge that all these black swans are for us. When I say black swans, there are, of course, many different kinds of black swans, but in this very period, in the last 1-2 years, we were, first of all, shocked by what happened around the migration crisis. It was, first of all, an European Mediterranean crisis, but not only Mediterranean crisis, because the migration crisis was around the world one of the most challenging difficulties we faced. Shaukat Aziz this morning said very interesting things on that point, so I can just link my thought on what Shaukat Aziz said this morning. Migrations are today the immediate consequence of the failures of the global system, of the security global governance system. If we take the 3 first countries of origins of the main migration and refugee routes in this very period, these 3 countries of origin are Iraq, Afghanistan, and Syria. And if we look at these 3 countries, the 3 countries are the countries of the 3 wars: bad wars, not enough wars, the wars that we had in the last 15 years, in which the global failure was so evident. So when we speak about migrations today, migrations are the first consequence of a bad global governance system on security, but not only on security, of course. Millions of people forced to leave their countries, moving, trying to reach another country, trying to reach a permanent or a temporary country where to stay. And these migrations are shaking the world order. If you take, for instance, the polls around the Brexit referendum, easily you have there migrations as the first topic that pushed the Brexiters to vote as they voted. And of course, in a situation in which, as you know, the United Kingdom was not the first country receiving migrants. In Europe, other countries like Germany or like mine or like Greece, other countries more affected by the problem and the crisis of refugees, not the UK. But for the UK people, this topic was the first one. So the first big topic, migrations, and I bring you a personal experience. When I was Prime Minister in the year 2013, we had the first big tragedy in the Mediterranean Sea. 366 migrants, refugees, died in the close to Lampedusa, close to an Italian island. Close, when I say close, I say 200 meters from the coast. And when I asked to the other European leaders, please, it is a European problem. It is not just an Italian problem. It is a European and it is a global problem because it will continue, because the Syrian war was there. And now we know that 7 million out of the 22 million of Syrian people, they are moving around to Jordan, to Lebanon, to Turkey, and of course to Europe. And I received as a reaction, yes, but first of all, it is an Italian or a Greek problem. Now we know that the problem is a European and it is a global problem. We know it because these last 3 years, and also because the application of the digital innovation to the migrant routes. In 2 weeks, July 15, in 2 weeks' time, the smugglers changed the routes of migrations. They closed the central Mediterranean route and they opened the Balkan route. And in 2 weeks' time, in 2 weeks, they moved 100,000 people, and the problem became suddenly a Central European problem. I raise this point because this is the key to understand how sudden, how fast are these changes, because the technology applied to this big movement around the world is making this movement faster and faster. And of course, this is the first reason, or this is one of the reasons why we are living in a period, and when I say we, I say now, I underline the Western countries, the transatlantic part of the world, so the US and the European Union, in a period in which the most known and most repeated word in the political landscape is populism. And with this category, in this box, we put everything, maybe too much. But we put all these new ways to run politics, decisions. What is populism? It's very difficult to define populism today in our societies. Is the decline of traditional parties, leaders addressing present problems with short-term solutions, or unusual behaviors, rupture attitudes. And populism is rising in our societies because of the fear of globalization consequences. There is today a very different approach toward globalization. In many countries, globalization means progress, and China is one of them. China reached enormous successes in eradicating poverty, in beating famine, stressing digital progress, widening the area of education. China is the example on how to profit from globalization. In our societies, in Europe and in the US, globalization is today creating a divide between the losers and the winners, as we say, of the globalization process, creating a situation in which in these industrialized countries, there is an increasing of inequalities, there is a fear for the future, and there is this divide between the cosmopolitan part of the population and the less cosmopolitan part of the population. The problems of the jobs, the problem of unemployment, and this new situation created by the immigration issues. So the rise of protectionism. It was very interesting hearing one of the Professor Immanuel Wallerstein talking about Porto Alegre and Seattle, because it was the aim of the first years of this century. Progress, free trade, no borders. Today we are living exactly in a opposite situation, in a different period in which borders are raising again. We are having and we are living in a very complicated issue. We had, for instance, in Europe, this crisis, in my view, very complicated to understand on CETA, on the agreement with Canada. We are living this very complicated situation on TTIP. The American elections changed the position of the two American leaders today on TTIP, and in many European countries there is this very anti-free trade mood. My third point is about, of course, Brexit. We have to put Brexit here, and of course my point of view is a very European one, but I have to put Brexit here because Brexit, as Professor Gardner today showing the map, it was very interesting, the map that the president of Toronto University showed us, because this map is a demonstration of a big divide in the UK society between the cities and the countryside, between London, Oxford, Cambridge, Manchester, Birmingham, and in Wales or in Northern Ireland too, between Cardiff and the rest of the countryside, or between Belfast and the rest of the countryside. And this divide is there to tell us how big is the divide in our societies. And Brexit, of course, is a cut in the word of the integration. It's, for Europe, is a big crisis. And in the next months, in the next 1-2 years, we will see how the European leaders of the 27 European countries will be able to overcome this crisis, to relaunch the European Union without waiting the Brexit negotiation result. Because as we hear yesterday, this morning, with the news, the last news from London, with this querelle, this crisis about who is in charge for applying the Article 50, the government, the parliament, that will take time, I think. It will be a very complicated issue to manage the divorce. This is why the European Union has to move faster. And as a consequence of that, we are living in a period in which the rise of nationalism is something of very concrete, not only in Europe or in the US, but it is something of very present in our world. Radicalism, extremism, and of course we are in a period of rise of terrorism with all the consequences of terrorism. We had in Paris, where I am today the Dean of the School of International Affairs, last year was a very complicated one, a very tough year, in which our students were the colleagues of all the young men and women killed in the Bataclan, and to discuss with them, we discuss with our students, to let them thinking to their future in a different way, rather than what this very, very black aim that terrorists try to give to the Paris situation. And I think this very complicated situation that we have around terrorism is also because, as Shoukat Aziz said this morning, we didn't address the right problems behind the terrorist attacks. So, my conclusion is about 3 good news in this scenario that is not a very, very positive one from my point of view. 3 good news that are here to tell us how possible it is to reshape the relationship between a nation-based multilateral system and a global governance new solution system. The 3 good news are, first, the good result, the positive result unexpected result of the COP21. I think it was very important because of the topic, first of all. The topic is a very concrete one, is a topic speaking to everyone, is a topic speaking and shared by all the people in the planet. And is a way also to tell to the people a good global governance with a good will to solve problems is something that can give to your children, to your future, a positive mood. And COP21 was very good for this general mood. So it's the demonstration that today the multilateral system can give answers if there's strong leadership and strong commitment. My second good news is about the G20 here in China. I think it was a very good news. First of all, the good news was the candidacy of China to lead and to organize this G20, because we needed a great leader, a new leader as China, organizing and betting on the G20. The G20 had a period after the 3-4 G20 meetings around the crisis, organized by the UK, the US, France. It was the period of the crisis, and the G20 meetings were there to solve, to address the immediate problems of the crisis. Then we had a period of decline of the G20 in terms of global governance place. And I think the Chinese one was a very, very good reaction to this decline. And this reaction was very important, first of all, because of the leadership of China, and because G20, in my view, for what I experienced and for what I study, is I think the best place where a lot of problems can be addressed. Is a place where you put together nations, so the most powerful states in the world, and international organizations. And it is the only way where you mix these two levels. And it is the only way to try to bridge the fields. When Professor Wellstein this morning mentioned trade, the crisis of Seattle was because Seattle was only on trade. And it is impossible to solve trade issues without bridging with other issues, like agriculture, or like intellectual property, or like many other fields where, or development, international development, where you need other international organizations or involved, or other fields. This is why I think G20 is the right framework, and revitalizing G20, I think it's a very good news today. And of course, for China, it's very important. I put also in the same box what we heard this morning about AIIB. That is another, in my view, good news, positive news in this Chinese involvement. And the third good news is the election of the new UN Secretary General. And I say it is a good news for the method and for the person. First of all, for the method. The method was, in my view, a good one, because it was a method without allowing the possibility of hidden veto rights. It was a very transparent method, with the votes inside, within the Security Council, a very transparent method with the race among different candidates, and public opinion. The public opinion was involved, informed, and I think it was a very good final result in terms of method, and I underline in terms of person, because first of all, Antonio Guterres has, in my view, three characteristics that are very good. First of all, personally is a very dialogue vision, his skills, his assets are very, very positive, are the perfect skills for this job. Second, because he was a prime minister, so he was somebody, he is the first prime minister as Secretary General of the UN. So he was somebody with a great leadership. He's not an official, he's not a bureaucrat, or he's somebody with political leadership. And that is important for the role, for the job of Secretary General. And third, because of his previous job, High Commissioner for Refugees. That is somebody knowing that this topic is the key one today, and also the credibility of the UN will be considered and will be checked if this topic will find solutions. So I conclude here by saying that future effective global governance needs a new mix between this level of involvement of states, of nations, and a multilateral system based on the G20, on the raise again of the G20, of the UN, more effective role, and of course, I hope, on more regional integration effectively working. This is why I hope the European Union will overcome the present crisis, and I think this role and the role of the European Union would be very important. But in all these fields, my true conclusion is about the role of education. All these changes, all these challenges are obliging us to consider how important is the education, how important it is to give the correct skills to the people, to the young people, in a wide way, not continuing with this cleavage in some countries between the most cosmopolitan people and the less cosmopolitan one, but also thinking that in the world of today, education is not just passing information. For the information we have Google or we have internet, and it's not a problem of education. Education means the compass with the cardinal points, and how to share the compass, how to understand what is the compass, how to understand where are the true and the correct cardinal points. This is a big role today in a world changing, in this changing world, and I think, and this is why I'm so happy to be here, the contribution of China and the contribution of the universities, and BEIDA is running and is taking a leadership role, and we are very, very happy of that. Thank you.